Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Day number 2 of Saints training camp, which means quarterback battle. Ross Jackson was there, saw every moment, every snap, every play of Saints training camp here on day 2. He joins us now, of course, on Twitter X at Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, and Locked On Saints. Ross, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for making the time, as always. Okay, let's just kind of dive right in. It was Tyler Shough's first day with the ones. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was the opportunity that we were waiting to see. He had a little bit of a tougher day yesterday, was under a lot of pressure and a lot of duress with that second-team offensive line, second-team defense, kind of getting everything together that first day of training camp. Today, I think you saw him a little bit more comfortable. His throwing stats are going to look a little bit worse than they actually are because he had 2 throwaways. He actually was second in college football last year by Pro Football Focus's charting of throwaways. This is a part of his game to eliminate negative plays. But, I mean, in training camp, I think you'd like to see him maybe take some more of those risks and just go ahead and, try some things that he wouldn't try in game otherwise. But it's a challenging thing when you're trying to put good stuff on tape because you're competing for a starting role here. So it's a little bit of an awkward negotiation for any player. But I think that you saw him a little bit more maybe composed, a little bit more calm today in the pocket, able to get the ball out quickly. He's got great ball location whenever he gets the ball out, particularly when he's going to that intermediate or deep area of the field. So I think you're watching him continue to take steps forward and progress. The way that he talked about it was that he very much felt like, he got better today from where he was yesterday, and I think I'd absolutely agree with that.
What about his chemistry with the first-team offense, Ross? Is that something that was noticeable?
Say that one more time.
What about his chemistry with the first-team offense? Was that something that was noticeable?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys that you've seen a lot of the chemistry with are guys that he's worked with over the course of the offseason. Remember, he went out to Oregon to do a workout or a throwing session with a lot of guys organized by Brandon Cooks. You saw him go to Dallas as well to work with some other players. So I think what you saw is that stuff really paying off, in particular his chemistry with Rashid Shaheed. Now, he said he's got to put it in a little bit of a different gear when you're throwing to Rashid Shaheed because of how fast he is. But, I mean, he threw 2 touchdowns today, and both of them went to Rashid on kind of these crossing patterns where some of that speed can make it really, really challenging to get the ball out in front of a receiver in those situations where they're working laterally kind of sideline to sideline. And so I think that that's one player you could certainly see all of that off-season focus and all that off-season work really starting to pay off in terms of the chemistry that's being built.
All right, Spencer Rattler, obviously he was perfect yesterday, 9 for 9 on Wednesday, day 1. Takes his turns with the 2s on day number 2. How'd it go for Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, I mean, not as strong a day today as he had yesterday. He also ends up throwing the first interception of camp on a play that he was trying to throw out of the back of the end zone, but then maybe didn't get enough under it. And so Quincey Riley and Mason Tipton were kind of in that area. And so as he tried to get that one out of the back of the end zone, he mentioned that he didn't get enough air under it. So Quincey Riley does what it is that he was famous for doing during his collegiate time at both Middle Tennessee and Louisville, and got himself the first interception of camp. And so I think that the next play, though, is really a big part of what you're looking for these quarterbacks. And this was something that Kellen Moore talked about, that quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions, but what's more important to him are how these guys respond. So the very next play, he comes in and these team drills, red zone drills, he runs in for a touchdown right after that. So I think that what you saw was a really clean day up until the interception, but then an immediate response to that, getting back in and finding his way into the end zone. So these guys, I think, are going back and forth. I would consider it neck and neck after 2 days, but I think that's what you would hope to see after the first 2 days of camp.
For sure. I want to ask you something about Jake Haener, too, momentarily, but you mentioned Rattler running it in. Through 2 days, have you noticed more mobility out of these quarterbacks? Is that something that Kellen Moore really, really wants? I mean, obviously, it comes a year ago with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of things that kind of lend itself to exactly that. The first thing is that yesterday, the first day of training camp, we saw 2 designed runs, it looked like, for Spencer Rattler. So that's one thing. The other thing is today, Tyler Shough was kind of talking about how, there's different levels of opportunities to make plays on every snap. And so he mentioned that sometimes it's either now or later is kind of what Scott Tolzien and the quarterback's coach has been teaching them. And so the idea being it's either now in terms of making that play in rhythm, getting the ball out and making the play, or it's later after you've extended the play. So he talked a lot about second action plays. And so when you get those opportunities to kind of scramble, get outside and extend the play, then you have another opportunity to go out there and get that ball somewhere where you can, move it downfield or throw the football away. And so it's a lot of kind of negotiating those, but all of those are also examples of utilizing athleticism and utilizing the rushing ability or movement ability of both of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be like a, take off, carry the ball and run type deal. Okay, Jake Haener, reading the tea leaves a little bit today, Ross, tweets, some reports. It looked like Jake Haener had a pretty solid day out there. I know Kellen Moore said he's going to get some action with the ones in some capacity on Friday. What have you made 2 days so far with Jake Haener?
Yeah, look, I actually think that Jake was the more consistent quarterback out of the three today that threw passes. But I think that this quarterback conversation is very much firmly in between Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler, right? Like we're not gonna pretend here, And so I think that the organization has been very firm that this is a 3-man race. This very much still feels like a 2-man race, even down to the idea that Spencer Rattler got the first crack at first team drills because he had more experience than Tyler Shough, which was a glaring omission of Jake Haener, who has technically more NFL experience than both of those guys going into his third year, while Rattler's going into his second and Shough is going into his first. So I think the context of action kind of shows you where everything is, but I don't think any of that bothers Jake Haener. Jake Haener is supremely confident. It's one of the things I've always credited him with. And he's a really cerebral player. And he talked about that in his post-game presser today, that, he always has been the underdog. He's always been in quarterback competitions, and he's never been picked to win the quarterback competitions, but he has often won those quarterback competitions. I think that will change in this situation. But I think that what you continue to see from Jake Haener is a comfortable player who's really, really smart, who sees the field well, and is certainly very quick and decisive. That was always a big thing last year. But now we're watching Spencer Rattler be more quick and decisive too. So now you have some kind of combat in that complement. So I think that it's an uphill battle very much for Jake Haener, but one that I don't think that he minds fighting.
Talking with Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, Locked on Saints podcast. Of course, you can get him on Twitter, X, at Ross Jackson NOLA. Ross, you mentioned Shaheed and the chemistry that he has with Tyler Shough. How about Shaheed and Olave? They're both out there, both full go. How are they looking?
Yeah, I think both of these guys look great. I think Shaheed has been a surprise since OTAs when we weren't even sure if he was going to be out on the field. And not only was he out there on the field, but he looked just as fast as he's always looked. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You guys know from watching, LSU practices and seeing these guys in action down here in New Orleans too. But, for the fan at home that gets to watch on television, it's so hard to translate how fast Rashid Shaheed actually is. But when you see him in person, it kind of blows you away. And he still very much has every bit of that speed, despite what ended his season last year being knee surgery, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a big highlight for him. I think for Chris Olave, what we've seen is a lot of chemistry with Spencer Rattler. Interesting that Spencer Rattler was given second-team reps today, but still had a lot of Chris Olave to throw to. He actually targeted Chris Olave on 3 different plays, connected twice on those, and then also had a jet sweep that he handed off to Chris. And so we saw a lot of Chris Olave with Spencer Rattler, even though Spencer Rattler was taking second-team snaps. We saw a lot of Juwan Johnson with Jake Haener, even though Jake Haener was taking third-team snaps. And even though Tyler Shough was taking first-team snaps, he was working with guys like Trayton Welsh in first team. So it's still a lot of shuffling around that's happening with these players. But I think that the chemistry and the comfort level that you see from both Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave with the 2 top young quarterbacks, I think is really, really notable. And you're seeing sort of all that off-season work that those guys put in Oregon and Arizona and Dallas, all kind of culminating here in New Orleans, where it doesn't look like they've been apart from one another since many games.
Let's get a few on the defense here real fast, Ross, before I let you go. The red zone period today, it looked like the defense kind of dominated that. Correct me if I'm wrong, the only touchdown they allowed was the one to Shaheed from Tyler Shough. How much of that was the defense being really good, or how much of it was maybe the offense not executing at the highest level?
Yeah, look, I think when we talk about the NFL game, we're talking about a game that's very much catered to offense.
Yeah.
And so I think in any time that you see a defense stand up and perform in a red zone and in practices and things like that is very much all about what the defense did. And I think that that's symbolized pretty well in a couple of different things. The first of which being pass rush. We continue to see guys like, Chase Young get into the backfield. Chris Rumph can remain both days. Chris Rumph has flashed, a guy that doesn't get a lot of shine as one of those edge rushers that was added this offseason. Seeing some guys from the defensive interior get into the backfield like Nathan Shepard. And then, of course, the big interception by Quincey Riley. But on top of that, we also saw two times today that a ball was punched out. One time the play might have already been dead, but it's still something that like coaches will still look at on tape and say, hey, don't let that happen a fraction of a second earlier, because then it would have been a fumble. And then yesterday we saw Cam Akers, get a ball punched out by DeMarco Jackson and recovered by Christian Boyd. And so I think you're just seeing a really like the entire identity or personality or philosophy of that Brandon Staley defense is to attack. And we're already watching a defense that's ready to attack. So I give them a lot of credit for their performance, especially in those short area situations where the field shrinks. There's a lot of congestion you have to work through. Like they seem to be kind of on the same page pretty early.
I mean, I loved that when I saw that it was Quincey Riley that got the interception. That brought a smile to my face. I mean, we just hadn't been able to see the guy yet so far through the preseason. To see him out there performing like he is so far, that's pretty awesome. Last one for you, Ross, also dealing with the defense. Safety rotation, was it any different from yesterday? I know yesterday was Howden and Justin Reed running with the ones.
Yeah, mostly still Howden and Justin Reed running with the ones. I think the thing that looked most different today was, of course, with the addition of Julian Blackmon, some things kind of shuffled around. And so the third team rotation included some Julian Blackmon as he's, kind of getting acclimated and first day out and stuff like that. So he's going to start with the threes and then probably move up from there. And so because that kind of created some shuffling around, guys like Elliot Davison and JT Gray and Julian Blackmon all kind of shared some third team reps with a couple of second team reps. And then we also saw Ugo Amadi step into some second team reps today next to Jonas Sanker, the young rookie. So I think that'll continue to shuffle around, but it was interesting. And I'm glad that you asked this because it is an important highlight that Jordan Howden, who, is maybe is all of a sudden the most experienced New Orleans Saint, at least at the position. He was the guy next to Justin Reed for 2 days in a row since Tyron's retirement.
I said that was the last one. I had one more. Anything from Jonathan Bullard? I know he was out there today.
Yeah, he had some early reps, or let me not say early, let me say limited reps, kind of similar to Julian Blackmon, right? Okay. First day, showing up, getting into action, wearing number 58. Julian Blackmon's wearing number 28. And both of these guys got, a few opportunities here and there, but for the most part, they were just kind of, I would call them, very well in terms of the process of acclimating to the acclimation period, if that makes sense. And so that will continue to kind of ramp up over the next few days, I imagine.
He is Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net. Going to have a great detailed write-up from practice over there. It's free. Go read it. Locked on Saints, of course. Get subscribed. Follow him on Twitter. X, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson NOLA. Ross, we appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you.
Back at you, buddy. You take care. Stay safe. Appreciate you having me on. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.